Yeah. So yeah, always funny to meet somebody who's my cosmic twin. I'm a left angle cross of education 6'2". Always funny to type it out and to read about it. But here we go, my fellow cosmic twins. The 6'2", adaptability, the inner balance to accept transition. Again, this speaks so deeply for the six line being. The innate awareness that all forms are transitory. The realization that the ideas lead to change and are changeable. The detriment is just a speculator, which I like very much, who profits at the expense of others in times of peace or war. The realization of what idea is of value in any situation. Adaptation is everything for the six line being. Anyone who has a six line in their profile knows that their life is nothing but a deeply organized roller coaster. Life is a roller coaster. If you're a six line being, you know up and down all the stuff that you have to go through. And at the same time, you have to be able to adapt to the mundane plane and its circumstances. The variability of the six line being to adapt give them the intellectual perspective an enormous capacity to see the value of ideas. We began this process by talking about how in the quarter of mutation every single hexagram has to confront death, has to confront the terminality of what things are. This is the realization that all forms are transitory. The potential in the sixth line is to recognize that their form is transitory. What it is to be a 3-3, what it is to be on the roof, what it is to go through that process of coming off the roof. This is not just about the transition, it's about the need to give, to adapt. More than that, it's the cross of education. It means that this busyness of the innate awareness that all forms are transitory is something that must be taught. Humanity must be educated in the recognition that we come and go, and that we ourselves are simply concretized concept that comes and goes, and there's an inner balance that is achieved. What is inner balance for me is quite obvious. You have a dysfunctional relationship between your personality and your design. It's a dysfunctional relationship that magnetically held together by the force of the monopole. Inner balance is when the passenger accepts the vehicle. Inner balance is when the personality can live in peace with the design. And only when one is willing to accept that transition and that transitorious is a law, and 11 goes to the 56, and the 56 is part of the cross of the laws, it's a law. Some of the most important laws we have are nurtured in the 11 and passed on to the 56, where they are concretized in the thyroid as a mechanism. Ultimately, we have a great law. The great law is all things come and go. We have to need to accept that they come and go. More than that, as we go through this process, despite the fact that we come and go, we have an obligation to educate our young. We have an obligation to educate the other. We have an obligation to do so. If there's ever a place where the six is supposed to become a trusted leader, it's here. Without education, we're lost. Now, if you look at the cycle over the last several thousand years, you can see that we've done a remarkable job. Yes, I have my deep concerns about those that remain disenfranchised from rightful education. But in fact, we educate an enormous number of beings on the planet. There's a level of higher education that has reached out now into the hundreds of millions of beings. So, in fact, this movement out of Eden into education, we've done both jobs really well. Go forth and multiply. We have. Go forth and learn. We have. We've learned as much as we've gotten to the point the way we understand the game, which is really an achievement. So when I look at the 11th gate, I'm not an abstract person. I have no abstract gates in my mind. Ideas for me were never pleasant. I never looked upon ideas as being interesting. I've never been seduced by them. In the early part of my life, I was quite heavy with idea people because I don't like things that don't have some solid basis to it. It's the 5-1 thing. What do you come up with? Otherwise I'm going to get burned. There's too much of a scientist in me. It's through these years of the knowledge that I've learned to see that this is the experiential component. It's not enough to have fact. There has to be the correlating experience, and the correlating experience adds corollaries to the fact, adds anomalies to the fact. It's only out of this process of reflection that we have the gift of education in the first place, and that education is essential. So I've learned to look at that nice white light of the 11 and say, good for you. I want to help you with all my ideas. It always made me sick. It's like, I don't want your help. I don't need your help. Maybe they do. I go talk to them. I'd rather say the facts that everybody's fucked up. This is, I understand. I immediately tune into this, but this business of I have this wonderful idea for you. How many times I've heard say to you, I have this wonderful idea, and all I want to go is save it. Don't give it to me. I don't want to hear it. I know this. He was never into my ideas. I had an idea to go to India and give it for free to the people. Never happened. It almost happened when they say yes, and then he dropped dead. Bless your soul. The sixth tree. An interesting thing, by the way, about the sixth tree. As we finish this cross, normally six trees have a real dilemma. They've got one foot over here and they got one foot over there. And it's not only do they have one foot over there and one foot over here, the hexagram to hexagram, they often have one foot on the roof while they have the other foot on the ground, or this way. Or sometimes they caught in between and they begin to hurt between the legs. It's very uncomfortable. The sixth tree here is fascinating. It's the ability to be adaptable realist. There's a special quality in the 3-6 tree here that rather than looking at the 10, because when the 10 looks at the 11 feels very uncomfortable because the 10 isn't interested in ideas. It's interested in behavior, just behavior. And when the 11 with this idea is saying, I have this wonderful idea, the 10 is saying, I have to behave this in order a way to satisfy it. Keep your idea. There's a real conflict between the 11 and the 10. And the 6 tree on this cross doesn't like looking into the 10 because the 10 says, if you don't have the right behavior, you're going to die. You never get that kind of threat with an idea. Hey, it was just an idea, relax. But the moment it's behavior, it gets really serious because the behavior of the 10 is all about survival. So the sixth tree up here says, I'm going to stay up here for the at the very top of the hexagram and just ponder. So they have difficulty coming off the roof. I've described six trees and 3-6 as ladder people or bouncing balls, whatever you want. Here's a six tree that will have a very hard time coming off the roof. Not the 6-2, but the 6-3 in this case will not like coming off the roof. It's much better to stay back there on the roof and reflect on adaptability and what it takes and whatever, and then to jump into the maelstrom of behavior. And this is the next gate that we go into. It's the 10th gate of behavior. So, are you ready for that? Yes, you better behave. Oh, behave. Oh, behave. Oh, behave. Oh, behave. Oh, behave. Oh, behave.